Hello, everybody. I am waiting for Substack to connect. I am using Restream, and this will also be uploaded to my new YouTube channel. So, for YouTube subscribers and anybody new watching me on YouTube, I would love it for you to subscribe to my Substack as well, which is where I'm doing this stream. In my description box, you will find the my link tree that has all of my links there. And yeah, I would love for you to join the community so we can start having discussions like this one. And I'm going to just keep refreshing here to see when I'm going to be connected onto Substack because I love to interact with people in the chat. Looks like I'm on. Okay, let's see who's coming in. Let me turn this down. Let me know if you guys could hear me and if the visuals are all good and I'm not too zoomed in here. So far on this screen, it looks like it's okay, but I'm just waiting to see. Oh, hi, Natasha. I'm so happy that you were able to join tonight. And okay, so everything's looking good. Sometimes there's a little bit of a delay for people coming on for me to be able to see them, but I really like talking to you guys and having. Oh, thank you, Natasha. I think you're gorgeous as well. I've forgotten to tell you before in chats when I see your lives. You do them very, very well. I'm hoping that I get a little bit smoother with these. I feel like I am. Uh, I think my main thing is I need to like slow down so I could gather my thoughts and keep them in an outline. I actually made an outline today, so I am hoping that I'm going to be able to go through systematically on what I want to talk about. And this is a follow up on the other live that I had the other night about Renee Nicole Good and how we're all upset. Obviously, I mean, we've crossed the Rubicon. This is something that many people never imagined that we would have seen in America, right? But there are certain things that I have been thinking about for a while that I want to discuss with you guys that have been bothering me and that are becoming even more alarming to me as we go forward and more of these tragedies take place. And this is something that everybody knows. Like, I don't think I'm presenting anything new here about how the right and Trump, for sure, he's like the kingpin that stokes all of this, right? The hate towards liberalism and Democrats and, the division and all of that stuff, because obviously that's a fascist playbook. But I feel like there is so much coming at us at once, right? We all know this too. It's like a fire hose of insanity constantly, whether it's geopolitical or even like on a local level, what's happening in our cities, ICE, all of this stuff. And then you've got the Epstein situation, like all of these things happening where it's meant to keep us distracted, I think, but there are certain things that are rising that I think it's dangerous not to keep your eye on. And one of those is this vilification and dehumanizing. I feel that they're trying to dehumanize Democrats. We all know this, right? But I feel like it's a five-alarm fire, and we really need to keep our heads and we have to pay attention to this. So let me see who's here. Let's see. Oh, hi, Nikki. Oh, I'm so happy that you got here. So I'm thinking that you did get the notification tonight. So I'm happy about that. And let's see. Hi, KK. Hi, Bob. Hi, Deborah J. Thank you guys so much for joining. All right. So I do have several clips that I actually today I have 8. I went a little overboard, but in order for me to keep this all cohesive and together of what I'm trying to convey, these thoughts, because this happens to me a lot of times. I love watching different content creators. That's why a lot of you, like Natasha, for instance, like she has a Substack. As a matter of fact, anybody here that's not familiar, please subscribe to her Substack. And you'll find like her posts and lives that she does, which she's very thoughtful, very intelligent. I love the conversations. Like we're setting up to do one together next week, so I hope you all could join for that too. You guys will get the notification, and we're thinking it'll be Wednesday evening around 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. But we're going to finalize everything. But I think that's what it's going to be. Anyway, I love watching other people's videos and reading articles and whatnot. This is why I love Substack so much. And I've met so many amazing people here. But I do the same thing on YouTube, which is why I wanted to start a new YouTube channel. I mean, it's slow. YouTube is slow in terms of getting traction on there. But the creators that I listen to on there, I watch regularly. And a lot of times when they're talking about a certain subject, it just fires so many things going on in my brain at once, like all of these thoughts and all of these connections. And that's just the way I am. I think I do have very strong pattern recognition. So a lot of times I could see something coming down the pike. And it's not just me. Obviously, there's a lot of people that have this too. People that I know in my life because I vibe with them. It's the same type of thing. So that's why I wanted to share this with you guys. So the first one that I wanted to share is a lady named Angela. You guys may know her on YouTube. She's not active on Substack. I think she does have a TikTok, and her channel is called ParkrosePermaculture. And usually, like, I love her perspectives on things, and she knows a lot. She's very knowledgeable on many, many different things. This particular thing, she's responding to a comment about the killing of Renee Nicole Good, and she's responding to some comments, I guess, that she had, but specifically she shows a TikTok of a young Black woman talking about sounding the alarm that now a white woman has been killed. So let me show you this, and then we'll talk about it afterwards. And let me see if I have this whole, I think I got my screen set up correctly, but let's see. So this is the first clip.
Okay, look, I think that there's something that y'all are not understanding about Renee Good's murder by an ICE agent in Minnesota. I'm seeing an awful lot of people saying, well, if they can shoot a white lady in the face in broad daylight, that's going to get a lot of people to flip, right? Or the other thing that people are saying is, like, if they can shoot a white lady in the face in broad daylight and get away with it, we're all cooked, right? Sentiments like this one.
I know that this is going to come off so insensitive, but I literally don't know how else to say this. If a white woman can get shot in the face by basically executive order, we are done for. We are done for. If this is not the catalyst to a revolution, this is it.
Okay, one, there's no such thing as it's over and we're cooked, right? That's not a thing. That's apocalyptic thinking, and it's not real. It's not based in reality. But second, no matter which side of that you fall on, either this is the thing that's going to wake MAGA up and they're going to turn against the tyranny of the federal government, or like, oh shit, they're not turning when they see a white woman shot in the face. We're fucked. Either way, you don't understand how white people think. I really built my main TikTok account before all of this nightmare that we're living now, debunking white supremacist conspiracy theories, particularly those around abducting protected white women and their children for human trafficking. Right? The mom who was snatched out of the detergent aisle at Target, the mom who claimed that her daughter was almost kidnapped out of an Old Navy in order to be trafficked. And I think that those conspiracy theories have perpetuated this belief that white men actually care about white women, that they actually care about protecting white women. White men love to commit violence against women, and they kind of like watching other white men commit violence against women. All of those conspiracy theories, all of this part of the patriarchy of, like, we have to protect our women, we have to defend our women, including all of the, like, transphobic, we have to protect women from trans people in women's bathrooms. All of these trafficking conspiracy theories were about protecting white women from Black and brown men. All of those narratives, like, you can go back and watch all my old videos. All of these conspiracy theories revolve around Black and brown men kidnapping white women and white children. They were never actually about protecting white women at all. What they were about was giving white men, one, an excuse to brutalize Black and brown men. If you portray all Black and brown men as what? Violent sex offenders who want to rape your women, then you have an awful lot of room to assault them, to dehumanize them, to commit violence against them, to abduct them and stuff them into concentration camps. Do you understand? The second part of that is that if white women are perpetually at risk of being victimized by everybody else in society, if white women could be abducted from Target parking lots, abducted from the Costco detergent aisle, that creates a narrative where we are constantly in a heightened state of anxiety. We have to be hyper vigilant. We have to be fearful of everybody else around us, especially Black and brown people who otherwise would be our allies, and we would be in solidarity with them against a shared oppressor. So that oppressor has to create a narrative that makes us fearful of those people and never be able to connect with them. And likewise, requires us to take up an awful lot of bandwidth, being hypervigilant all the time, worried that everybody out there is going to assault and victimize and abduct and traffic us. It is a very easy way that white men can justify isolating and controlling women. It also justifies like all of the patriarchy. They need to be controlling. They need to protect us, right? They need to keep us safe. Wow, it sounds an awful lot like the Trump regime. They have to take away more and more of our rights. They have to put ICE goons in our cities to protect us, to keep us safe from anybody who is Black and brown, anybody who is an immigrant, anybody who is here from Somalia, who is here from Central and South America. Anybody who isn't another white man. They've got to take away our rights in order to keep us safe. What the regime is doing is that wonderful utilization of that trifecta of oppression that has been omnipresent in the US this whole time. The patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism. It's just they've just cranked it up to 11. But when you see ICE agents shooting white women in the face, that's not going to flip white men, especially because that's just the embodiment of a system, that trifecta system that they benefit from, they want to reinforce, and they like low-key enjoy violence.
All right. So that was the end of that clip. If you saw me smirking for a second there, it's because I don't know if you heard in the background, I have my family here and dinner is ready. So I hope that was distracting like through the clip, but that is a very important perspective. And I agree with her. If you guys are not following her, or subscribe to her on YouTube, I suggest that you do. She's got a lot of great videos, a lot of great information. So I wish there was a way that I could put the names on here like I do on videos that I record, where you could put, like credit somebody and put their name, but she is ParkrosePermaculture. Anyway, the thing is, she was responding specifically to to comments and that video. So I just wanted to show that because I think it's an important perspective. And I remember her videos where she was talking about the conspiracy theory about the white women being abducted and from Target or Costco, and Black and brown people were abducting white families. And I agree with her assessment about white men, domestic violence. I mean, obviously there's a reason why there's so much domestic violence and the statistics are so high. I'm not down with blanket statements. You guys all know that about me. Some people feel that it goes without saying, but I personally don't like to make blanket statements where it's like, white men love violence against women or love perpetrating violence against women. Obviously, there are those that do, but there are plenty that don't. And but I know what she's getting at. I know what she's getting at. Now, let me go back here because I had some notes that I wanted to reference. So this whole thing here, I think, goes even deeper. So the thing that I'm alarmed about is it's not just a race thing. And what she was talking about, the trifecta with the patriarchy, white supremacy, and capitalism, like all of these things fall under an umbrella. To me, the very tippy top is the capitalist system. And that is what race was used in order to perpetuate. I mean, this is my opinion, uh to perpetuate certain people to remain on top and to have that monopolistic power over everyone else, right? And to use that wedge between the masses, which outnumber them immensely, and preventing solidarity. So as a matter of fact, I came across another content creator. I'm going to put these clips so you could watch them in their entirety on the replay like I always do. So all of these videos will be there if you guys want to go back and take a look and watch them later. But I did find a new content creator on Substack, and I don't know if you guys are subscribed to her. Her name is Sherry Dunn. I don't have a clip from her, but I was watching one of her posts that she had, and she was talking about this very thing. And there are a couple of notes that I have on here because she talks about how the confusion of white supremacy, Trump, and the stoking of hate all combines together. And what happened to Renee Nicole Good, she was saying in her video, is actually bigger than her. White supremacy has used tools of intimidation, terror, and death against white people to stop solidarity historically. And then when maligning doesn't work, that's when things could escalate, like what happened here. Although we talked about this last time, how there have been discussions where it seems that these ICE agents have been told to escalate on purpose, and we know why. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole, but you remember we had that discussion last time. So there was a quote that she had that she said, which really resonated with me, because I also think that this does not only apply with the white supremacy aspect, but also the capitalism aspect and what the oligarchs and the right wing media has managed to convince small business owners that they are in their club. So she said in her video, the way white supremacy has historically controlled other white people is to throw them crumbs, promise them gold, give them shit, but tell them they are better than black people. This also, yeah, so I have the notes about the small business owners, basically that they have to be against the worker. They have to be against unions. They're going to come after you. You can't be in like simpatico with a worker because you are above them type of a situation, right? And that message really resonated with me. So I will put her video so you could watch the whole thing. She did it was like an hour post, on Substack, because she's talking about a whole bunch of things, but that was the one that I wanted to hone in on here. Now, she also said in her video about the distinct difference between January 6th and Renee Good and how they're framing it and how they do it. I mean, I gotta say, the right wing is just, I've said this before, they are masters with their rhetoric. And Trump has just, elevated that even more. And he's a symptom. He's not necessarily, I mean, he's a symptom of what has been going on in our country for decades, all over the world really, but definitely in our country. And Sherry was talking about how let's see, because she mentioned that ICE agent that killed Renee Good supposedly feared for his life, but the January 6 rioters who beat, threatened to shoot, hung up a gallows, and threatened to kill Mike Pence got full pardons. So there's this cognitive dissonance, of course, right? And anybody could argue and try to make up excuses for why they have a certain position. And the right, like I said, are masters at this, to being able to dupe their base. I am seeing countless of memes right now where they're vilifying Renee Good. Have you guys seen, as a matter of fact, this rumor apparently that started about Renee's wife? The reason they lost, and I have to look into this, but from what I've seen so far, I've read that these rumors are false that are going around. Apparently, it was like some dude that made this post, and it went viral, of course, because MAGA and anybody on the right supporting what happened loves stuff like this. Okay, so it's insane. So basically, uh, the claim that Renee's wife was the reason why they lost custody of two of their children was because um, Renee's Renee Good's wife was putting out cigarettes on the children's arms and all of this insanity. And then, so I'm looking up, I don't know if you guys heard this, but they did this exact same thing with George Floyd. I mean, that is, and with every other tragedy that has happened, they always try to diminish and downplay and denigrate the victim in order to make it justifiable, even though they're not necessarily saying it. I'll get back to that though. I'll get back to that part about saying it. But there are some people that are reposting these memes saying like, this is your hero, this woman, that this is who you're rallying behind. What about Ashley Babbitt? What about Charlie Kirk and you guys? Okay, first of all, like the whole thing with Charlie Kirk, we all know, not one left-leaning like public official, every single one condemned it. But now you're getting these right-wingers that are, this is what I'm worried about, advocating for, well, not advocating, but basically saying that she deserved what she got because she was impeding an investigation, and then to go even further, this vilification of liberals and liberalism and all of these people dogpiling online, and they're the ones who are celebrating this when they said that, I mean, obviously there were people on the left that did make memes, and I'm sure celebrated the Charlie Kirk situation, because I saw it, but they were just like random people, right? This is not just random people. These are podcasters saying this. Apparently, Laura Loomer. I was listening to somebody, and I can't remember who it was. It was I think it was a YouTube video where Laura Loomer came out and said that she doesn't care if a communist gets killed. Oh, that's great. What? This is the kind of stuff that I'm worried about. All right, now I did want to go into David Pakman. I love David Pakman. I have two clips from him, and I think he's very level-headed, and I just really vibe with his message. And I have been watching him for years. You guys probably know him. He's huge, right? And I understand he's always very measured, like in his speaking, and he's very fair and balanced. And I don't know. I just really resonate with how he delivers his message. Now, and I remember this from a few years ago. He's talking about civil war. Of course, we all know the stoking that is going on, and this is part of it. There's so many things going on at once. It's almost like all of these thoughts are branching off in my mind because all of these things connect to me. And I'll play the clip because he's definitely not an alarmist, and he never was. So you'll see what I mean when I'll play this first one, and then we'll talk about it. And then I have a second one that I wanted to show you guys as well.
For years now, there has been a cottage industry of commentators predicting civil war. Every election, every protest, every heated news cycle gets framed as this is it. This is the civil war. And for a long time, that was not just exaggerated rhetoric. It was extraordinarily cynical rhetoric. There was no organized, plausible pathway to civil war in the United States. And a lot of the people who were pretending that we were on the precipice of a civil war were really serving to drive clicks and fear and engagement. And I didn't participate in that because I think it's wrong. I have to now come to the table and talk to you about what is happening now. What is happening right now as a result of what took place in Minneapolis is different. And I want to explain it without going full doomsday. The civil war is here. This week, yesterday, Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota, said he is preparing the Minnesota National Guard to physically stop, through confrontation, Donald Trump's ICE goons from carrying out operations in Minnesota. This is happening in the aftermath of the killing of 37-year-old American citizen Renee Good by an agent of Donald Trump's ICE. So we are potentially going to see the Minnesota National Guard physically face off against Trump's ICE. This is not a rhetorical flourish. This is a state executive signaling we are ready to use military force to block federal law enforcement. A civil war doesn't start with neighbors shooting each other in the streets. It starts when institutions stop recognizing each other's authority. And it starts when the chain of command breaks. And it can start when state and federal power collide in a way that can't be resolved by a court or by an election. And if we look at history around the world, that is a danger zone. So I'm not here saying the Civil War is here. But what I am here to tell you is that we are starting to see the scaffolding for what can lead to Civil War type conflict.
Yes. Okay. So that is very factually based, and that's how he is, very much so, which is why I like David Pakman. And so that is another thing that we have to keep an eye on, right? Because now all of these things are going to start escalating in the cities in particular. My God, I'm in Chicago, so could you imagine? I mean, of course you guys can imagine. We've seen it already. Pritzker and especially our mayor, Brandon Johnson. He's quite the hothead too, more so than Pritzker. But Pritzker, he's going to throw hands, like if it comes down to it. So that's going to be insane. But that's a conversation for another day when we get to that situation. But I just wanted to say here, Natasha, we were talking about, they're so stupid. Yes. And none of that justifies her murder. Exactly. The same exact thing that you just reminded me, because I wanted to mention, because I said with George Floyd, like how they were vilifying him and about, like, he was a criminal and he did this and he did that. All of that still does not justify what they did. But this is the rhetoric that they're in that bubble, in that right wing bubble. And this is why I feel that it's important to see what it is that they're listening to. And some of my friends are like, what, do you have a death wish? Why are you watching that stuff? And I'm like, because I think it's important to know what is circulating around there. And obviously we all know it's bullshit. But yeah, it's infuriating, yes, but I think it's important to like keep your finger on the pulse there. Now, this is the other clip from David continuing, to talk about this here that I wanted to share with you guys as well.
Now, up until now, even during extreme political conflict in the United States, disputes between states and the federal government have been mediated through lawsuits, injunctions, and federal courts. It's a slow process, as we talked about earlier. A state sues, the Justice Department responds, a judge rules, and the slowness of that process can be very frustrating. But part of the process is to prevent political conflict from turning into armed conflict. If you get beyond that, if you have a state-controlled armed force like the National Guard physically confronting federal agents, we're not in normal political territory. We are not in a moment where the court is going to decide. This doesn't mean we are in a civil war. It doesn't mean that a civil war is inevitable. It doesn't mean violence by default follows. Most civil wars do not look like two clean sides that form overnight and fight each other. They are escalating standoffs, miscalculations, moments where someone decides, I'm going to push a little bit more than we've ever pushed before. And then someone else says, we are now going to push a little bit more. That is the risk. And it is especially dangerous in the context of Donald Trump's presidency, where federal law enforcement is increasingly seen as a political weapon against which states need to defend themselves. When federal agencies are perceived rightly or wrongly as acting on behalf of a single leader, rather than a neutral law enforcement apparatus, states begin to treat them as illegitimate. They begin to treat them as hostile. And that is how they end up deploying the state National Guard against them. That is how trust collapses. Now, it's also worth saying that the people who spent years screaming civil war over mask mandates and school board meetings, they did real damage. They have desensitized the public to the idea. Because when you've got all these people who have been saying civil war for 10 or 12 years over everything, now when the more serious actors, who I try to be thoughtful, I try not to be hyperbolic, when I now come in and say, listen, I'm not saying a civil war is inevitable, but I've got to recognize that a mask mandate did not reflect a push towards civil war. What we are seeing now in terms of the National Guard of Minnesota versus Trump's ICE goons could push in that direction. We now don't get the attention that this really does deserve, because there are some people who have been, it's like the boy who cried wolf type of situation. And it makes it harder to recognize when we are seeing the type of institutional breakdown that really can lead to that type of conflict. This is different, okay? This is not Twitter drama. It is a kind of escalation that political scientists actually do worry about. Now, the hopeful part, if there is one, is that this can still be de-escalated. Congress exists, courts exist. How quaint, right? But governors and federal officials can try to step back from the brink, but pretending that this is just another overhyped news cycle, I believe would be a mistake. Civil wars don't start when someone declares them. They start when the rules simply stop working. And right now, there are really important rules that are under strain. One key point is that the next move matters more than the statements themselves that are being made. If Minnesota files for injunctions and Trump defies court orders, the risk of an escalation goes up dramatically. If courts act quickly and both sides at least pretend to comply, it'll probably cool down the situation. Civil conflict risk goes up, not just when people disagree, but when court rulings are not treated as binding. If people say, I don't care what the court said, the risk, of course, is that there are a number of instances so far in the last year where the Trump administration has said, effectively, we don't care what the courts say. A real armed confrontation between ICE and a state National Guard would create chaos that I don't believe Trump is able to manage. And it'll create a paradox. Trump may push right up to the edge because he thinks it gives him leverage, but then it may actually be pulling back that serves him better than crossing that edge. It makes it a very volatile moment. I'm cautiously optimistic that it won't get.
I appreciate his optimism, but dude. And Natasha, you actually said before he even mentioned it, the boy who cried wolf, exactly. And then also about World War III and a civil war at the same time. Yeah, exactly. Which is part of that, all of these things coming at us at once situation, which is why it's so hard to keep your concentration on something, a development that I'm very worried about, which is this dehumanizing of the left in order to stoke their base to encourage violence against just like random people. Now, David says a civil war is usually not, fought on the ground. Yeah, I get what he's saying. I mean, who knows how this is going to manifest? Me personally, I don't discount the possibility that things are just going to pop up in neighborhoods, in cities, in small towns, at the 7-Eleven. You know what I mean? I mean, you guys know what I'm talking about, right? I mean, just something that it's like a small fight could end up turning into like a massive brawl. Now, again, like I said in my last live stream, I'm 100% Italian, and my nonna, my grandma, was the queen of catastrophizing. And I grew up with that. Now, in real life and growing up and now being an adult and having the life experience, I know that that does not serve a purpose. It's not helpful to do that in life. However, having like a certain pattern recognition and the old adage of what is it? Prepare for the worst, hope for the best type of a thing. That was my grandma's life motto, seriously. But I think that is something that we definitely need to be vigilant now because we see what's happening before us. Very important for us to keep an eye on all these things. Of course, I know that there's a lot of people that are like, we have to have hope. Yeah, all of these things have to happen concurrently. Like you have to be hopeful and still like don't be like debilitated and frozen by fear. But at the same time, we need to keep these things in mind that there are very real possibilities of things getting really dark and then act accordingly. Now, another thing that I wanted to share with you guys. Oh, let's see what's going on here. Yeah, Natasha, yes, tension is running high right now. You can feel it. Oh, absolutely. Oh, there's more people that joined. Hi, you guys. Thank you so much for joining me tonight. Hi, Shirley. Let's see. Hi, Kim. Hippy Dippy is here. Paul, Rob, thank you guys. Yeah, let's see. I'm just trying to go through and see if I could catch some of these. Oh, yeah. Everyone is looking at everyone wondering if they're an ally or an opposition. Absolutely. Patriarchy, B's free verse, true verse. The first system of oppression perpetrated by the church, which hasn't been historically friendly towards women and was captured by both white supremacy and capitalism and marches straight into necro-capitalism. And yes, it's exactly what it sounds like. Yeah. And this is what I was talking about when the first video that I showed you with Angela from ParkrosePermaculture, where she talks about the trifecta, the white supremacy, patriarchy, and capitalism all existing and feeding each other. Like we all know this, right? But yeah, let me see. Let me go back to my notes here so I don't lose track, because there were certain things that I definitely wanted to talk about. Oh, I did bring up that Ashley Babbitt situation. I mean, I was listening to Dean Blundell and Lev Parnas right before I came on here, and it was a replay from a live that they did the other day, and they were talking about how they murdered Babbitt like they murdered Charlie Kirk. And I was worried that the Charlie Kirk martyrdom would be bigger I'm glad that it's not, but at the same time, it's still there. Um, but even with Babbitt, like their rhetoric is so strong, the right wing rhetoric, and how their revisionist history, and it is so dangerous. And this is how they're able to galvanize their base. And like Babbitt, and how they won, the family won the settlement, the $5 million settlement. Like this is like so ridiculous. I mean, because they're like, oh well, she wasn't armed. That was a completely different situation. You guys remember she was breaching the hall, and Lev was even talking about, he was like, that officer that was there that just told her more than like a dozen times, like, do not come in here, don't do it. And he had like, the gun. He warned her like a million times, and if she came through, all of those people would have bum rushed after her. So that was a completely different situation than what's going on right now. And what happened, to Renee Good. Let's see. Oh, okay. So now, because I am talking about this situation with the vilification of Democrats and liberals, and why I think it is so important for us to keep that top of mind on top of everything else, even more so, because whenever something like this happens, all of the components that, what's the word, I'm trying to express myself and try to come up with a cohesive thought. All of the components that caused it, like all of the symptoms, like, the racism and, the oligarchy, all of these things are all valid. But the number one thing that we should be really concentrating on is how the right is creating and expanding this idea that liberals and Democrats are subhuman, and it is okay if they get hurt. And I wanted to bring up Heather Cox Richardson, and she always goes back to the nuts and bolts of everything. I love her. And if you guys aren't following her, definitely her YouTube and Substack. She's on Substack, of course, as well. I love her explainer videos. This was part of one of them recently. And she's just talking about, and this is a lot of things that we know, but I wanted to present all of these together because as one cohesive thought with the overarching theme that we really need to keep an eye on what these people are trying to have their base do to go against us. And the thing that infuriates me the most is most of these people, the bottom 90%, which is the whole point of my platform, the third estate, which are, the working class, the middle classes, which also includes the small business owners that I mentioned earlier before, but the oligarchy convinced them to be against everybody else, that they're basically like in the same pool in order to keep us all divided. So we don't really pay attention to them. Now, that's what Heather is talking about here, and the othering of people, and why the fascist playbook utilizes this tactic so much.
But it also means that the mass of people have to be directed by that small group of people. They have to be brought in behind that small group of people. And the way that you do that, according to fascist thinkers, is by creating an other, by splitting a population along lines of religion or race. You set this idea that there is somehow a small group of people who are the good guys, and everybody else is a bad guy. They use different words than that, but that's the scheme of it. Because what you're doing is you're setting a group of people against an other psychologically. So you're deliberately saying, we're the good guys and they're the bad guys. And often they define those bad guys as socialists. Think of these as words, by the way, not as concepts, as socialists or as the radical left. I'm going to come back to that in a minute. And if you can convince the in-group to hate the out-group, what they do to the out-group matters, of course, especially to the out-group. It matters in many ways, but what that really does is it solidifies that in-group, because you don't want to be one of the out-group. You want to be with the in-group. So you deliberately split a population, and then once you've got that in-group, sort of eating out of your hand, you convince them that they are the true members of that society. that they are the ones who can usher in a resurgence of a great past, that they don't need other countries, that you need to kill all kinds of foreign ties because those foreigners are no good. That you need to make sure that the government and business work together, often with the business taking a percentage, if the government taking a percentage of businesses. And you need to make the military, the government, and the army all work together with this very, very loyal base, forcing everybody else to come along with it. And there are all sorts of implications for that. For gender roles, for example, women are supposed to be religious and housekeepers and produce a lot of children rather than working outside the home, because the whole point of this is to denigrate the idea of any kind of equality among people. Because the point is there's not equality among people. Some people are better than others, and they have to be trusted to whip this country into shape in such a way that they move the army, the businesses, and the government together to create a very strong state at home, and then to spread into other countries and to take over those other countries and to be able to grab their resources.
Yep. I love that lady. I just love the way she explains everything. I wanted to talk or highlight a couple of comments here. Nikki, this shit started with Reagan. Yeah, that was definitely turbocharged. A little bit before that, but definitely Reagan and then Newt Gingrich. I always remember with Clinton, all the bullshit that he started. I feel like that, like in the 90s, when was it? Like the early 90s, a lot of this with the AM stations, Rush Limbaugh. We talked about this before. That was the beginning, and the way that they honed their message and that art that they have, that they are able to galvanize their base this way with this, horrible, dangerous rhetoric. And another thing too that I want to say, what I was to touch on earlier, what I meant about also the blanket statements, and even there are a lot of people that express all the time, like anybody that voted for Trump, anybody that it's a MAGA supporter is evil no matter what. Deep down, they're all racist, and that's it. Black and white. I don't think so, although there are those people. Absolutely. And there still is racism in this country. Absolutely. But I don't think it's that simple. And a lot of those statements, first of all, like anything reductionist like that drives me nuts. It does. It just does. And so I think a lot of these people have no idea the things that we know and the news that we consume, because they are in this bubble of propaganda that is just, I mean, I know very intelligent people, whether they have a degree or not, but even the ones with degrees, I'm talking doctors, lawyers, and whatnot, that are like sucked into this. And you're like, how is that possible? How is this possible? And the cognitive dissonance of the things that they say to me, that they support, that goes in direct defiance of this movement that they also support. I mean, it is just incredible to me. I do not get it. But anyway, going back to what she was talking about and how fascist movements are able to do this with their supporters by, promising them, that they're going to protect them, whatever it is. And, people are susceptible to that without having to necessarily be an absolute horrible person, although there are absolutely horrible people in that movement for sure. All right, so I have another clip from her. Let's see here. Let me find her. Okay, so this is the other one. This is she's completing this thought.
Trump's political career has depended on his ability to convince white Americans that he would protect them from that dangerous other. This has been the justification first for putting him in office in 2016, but then also for his use of federal officers from ICE and other federal agencies to round up undocumented immigrants and to hurt citizens as well, denying both of due process. But he's been able to get that because of that long-term, as I say, splitting of our population. There's the good guys and the bad guys. And you saw this really clearly, and you still see this very clearly with Trump. Robert Mueller, for example, who did the Mueller report, special counsel Robert Mueller, was a Republican. James Comey, former director of the FBI, a Republican. Many of the people who stood against him in his first term were Republicans, but the minute they stood against him, he started to call them Democrats. You saw this, for example, with Mitt Romney, who was at the time a senator from Utah, although he had been the Republican nominee for president. When he voted in favor of one of the articles of impeachment in Trump's first impeachment trial in 2020, January of 2020, Trump literally began to call him a Democrat. He said that no Republicans had voted to convict him, only Democrats had. And he said, everybody knows that Mitt Romney's a Democrat. That deliberate splitting of our population has been central to Trump's rise, but it has depended on white Americans buying into it. The violence has overwhelmingly been against brown Americans now and against Black Americans. White Americans have certainly experienced violence, but they have not had that light bulb moment. The shooting of Ms. Good is a game changer in that, for the first time, white Americans can see on their phones the power of the state being used to kill somebody just like them. And that is a political story, because if Trump loses those white suburban moms especially, but white suburban people, he can't put together any kind of a winning coalition.
And this goes back to the initial video that I showed you from Angela, and how her position was that it won't wake anybody up. Heather, on the other hand, is saying something different. And I can see, because again, since I live in the gray, I totally live in the gray. That doesn't mean that there aren't certain things to me that are not black and white, because I think there obviously is in life, but there's a lot of gray in life and things that are way more nuanced, and I'm much more comfortable with nuance. And like I said, I can't handle like when things are reductionist and just simplistic. I don't think a lot of things are. And so yeah, so that's very interesting, because she's right. This is definitely something that is very jarring, I'm sure, for a lot of people, especially in this country. And not only even just I mean, yes, race is definitely at the top of that, seeing something like that happen, to what Heather said, to somebody like them. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. I think that was something that was probably quite the shakeup in general. And let's see. Oh, now I did want to show you another one here. This is on TheYoungTurks. Chink cracks me up, first of all. Chink Uger. But this is not Chink. This is, I don't remember what this guy's name is, but he is a regular. I think he is one of their like anchors or independent journalists. But I did really resonate with what he said here. Oh, before I get into that, I did want to highlight, yes, Natasha, what you were talking about with the NSPM 7, the executive order about going after domestic terrorists, and their loose definition of what a domestic terrorist is, and basically anybody that has that is progressive and has left-leaning beliefs and is against their like MAGA agenda, anti-family, all of those things. And Nikki, and it also brought up, and you too, I think you guys were talking about McCarthyism and how MAGA is the new Red Scare. Yeah, absolutely. It's the same type of tactic that they're trying to trying to execute here. Let's see. Okay, sorry. I don't want to get too, I'm like reading you guys' comments. All right, so now this clip I wanted to share with you as well.
I think you're being very responsible by taking at face value what they say they believe, and I can't speak for everyone. I don't think that is what is happening. I don't think he was scared. I do not accept that. I think this is a guy who wanted to put himself in a position to do that. He drew his gun instead of stepping out of the way. He wanted to use it. That's what he wanted to do. And when he was on the side, he could have stopped shooting. He did not want to stop shooting because bitch, that's why. Because how dare she? Because how dare she and her lesbian wife talk to me? How dare they? He wanted to kill her. That's what happened. And much more importantly, I agree that this is like kind of a Rorschach test. I don't think it's the sort of Rorschach test that you said though. I do not believe that everybody's looking at this video and coming to two different conclusions. They're saying different things after it. I do not think JD Vance thinks that this cop was about to die. He's lying. He's just lying about that. Now they're lying for different reasons. Matt Walsh is lying so he can get more viewers. JD Vance is lying so he can be president in 2028, even though I think this is gonna work directly against that. Most of them are lying because this is a core philosophical component of fascism. It's pretending that January 6th wasn't an insurrection. It's pretending that COVID-19 wasn't a serious thing. It's pretending that Donald Trump should get the Nobel Peace Prize. It's the freedom and euphoria of saying something insane because you can, because your side is so taken over everything that you don't have to say things that reflect reality. You could just have fun with all of this and just say insane things. Everything is trolling to these people. They do not actually believe that she needed to die. They believe that she should die and that people like her should die. That's why Matt Walsh, he's even backed off of the she was gonna kill him thing. He's now regularly tweeting, it doesn't matter if she was trying to flee, she should be killed. Laura Loomer tweeted yesterday, I don't care if communists die. Can we dispense with this idea that all lives are equal, which is literally what they said the last time there was a big social movement. So clearly they didn't believe that. They like this, Cenk. This is what they want. They're not getting economic returns. They're not getting any of that stuff Donald Trump campaigned on, but they get this feeling that they're superior and that the other side, the people they hate, that they're jealous of, that they fear are suffering. They want the suffering. That's why Donald Trump tweeted earlier today, those economic stats about how red states are doing well and blue states are losing all the jobs. Screw them. Their jobs numbers are terrible. They're dog crap. But some of them like it if the idea is, okay, it's really bad, but it's worse for the blue states. I think that they delight in this sort of lying. The Haitian cats and dogs is the exact same thing. They did not actually believe that pets were being eaten, but they love being in a position where they get to pretend to believe crazy things. Feel free to disagree with me, but I see you cannot respond to these videos and say, no, he didn't shoot into the side of the car. He was run over. Carolyn Leavitt just repeated on Twitter that he was run over. That's insane. We cannot believe that they believe that, Cenk.
That's where I heard it from, the Laura Loomer quote. Yeah, this is a worry, and I completely agree with his assessment there. JD Vance absolutely does not believe anything that he's saying, but we all know, right? The man is a smart dude. He's not an idiot. He's evil and he's a poser and he sold a soul, but he's not stupid. This is all part of the ruse and in order to galvanize their base in order for them to be able to hold on to power. And what he said there about lives not being equal ties directly to the earlier video that I showed you about Heather Cox Richardson and fascism, and how fascism, that is their main goal, is to make sure that they convey that message that no, not like all lives are not equal. So yeah. And now one last thing that I wanted to show you before I close out tonight. This is very disturbing to me. And like I told you before, I keep my finger on the pulse on some right-wing things that I come across, whether it's you know, a person that I know that has these sensibilities, and then I'll look at their posts. So sometimes it's on Facebook or on Instagram. And this particular one, I was like, wow, this is, some people might think it's silly. I don't think it's silly. I think it's very alarming. It is an AI rendition of Trump's voice. And there's a bunch of people like, well, you'll see it because I'm going to show it to you right now. But there is the retard word in there. I speak plainly. I don't like euphemisms really. I don't like whenever you repeat a word or you say something, I mean, with the exception of some that are just absolutely on the no list for me. I'm not saying it maliciously. It's definitely, it's just for the context of, you know, explaining, like for instance here, like what I'm about to show you. As a matter of fact, I remember when I was a child in grade school, we had the special ed class, throughout the years. And so we would see them, during lunch or whatever, like when we were passing the halls. And I absolutely abhorred, like when they would get made fun of from other like young kids. I mean, we were young, we were in grade school. I absolutely hated it. And even now to this day, if I have such a soft spot for anybody that is, like mentally handicapped or anything. I will, oh my God, you want to talk about throwing hands? If anybody were to say something or yeah, it really bothers me. But we know that the right is using this as a pejorative term now. I mean, they did it to Tim Walz and that whole thing that happened, and they are reclaiming these things as a backlash to cancel culture, which I personally think in many instances got absolutely ridiculous because there's a lot of things that I know there's free speech, and there's a difference between that and purposely wanting to hurt somebody. Like, I'm not down for that. But in order to have like an honest conversation and to be policed with your words, and people are measuring your words and saying like, oh, you can't see this because of this. No, 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 no. I'm totally not down with that. I'm Gen X, please. No. So I think that was, a lot of what caused this backlash now, that they relish saying these words, and they relish taunting the left with it. Anyway, so this is the thing that I saw, but with all of that I just said about how they, they may be poking fun or whatever, this is really tingling my spidey senses and making me think that this is also part of the dehumanization. So yeah.
Attention, retards. I repeat, attention, retards. If you're a Minnesota Democrat snowflake, please move along. We're trying to get rid of all you retards from our small towns and cities. So if you watch CNN, you're definitely retarded, and you need to leave now. Please grab your belongings and join this group of retards leaving the city. We will deport you back to Retardistan, a beautiful place full of specially retarded people like you. Believe me.
Absolutely disgusting, right? And you saw the laughing emojis there and the skull on the bottom, like the person that reposted this, I didn't put their account on here. Like just like they're just, it's so funny. This is just hilarious. Yeah, so that's part of it. So stuff like that is going around, and it's just, yeah, it is sick, KK. That's right. This is sick. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm just gonna take a look and see what you guys are saying. Condemning everybody that's not like them. Absolutely, which they say we do. And again, the cancel culture, in my opinion, where it got so ridiculous and so brain dead, that gave them fuel. And they're lumping everybody as being on the left, having those sentiments. Like you even heard him say the snowflake situation, even though they're like the biggest snowflakes on the planet. My God, they like can't take a goddamn thing. Their side, the right, talking about us. Anyway, but let me see what you guys are saying here. Threatening Jerome Powell. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, I wish I could screenshot these. I say this all the time, but at least I could catch like some of these. You guys are talking. Nikki, I'm a boomer. I tend to say what the fuck is on my mind. Good. You guys seem to be my people, which I think is fantastic. I mean, everybody's welcome here, but and I have no problem, like, discussing things with people. If somebody is disagreeing with me, I have no problem with that, as long as you're respectful, right? And like, everybody should be able to express their thoughts, and a lot of times thoughts and theories and feelings evolve, right? I mean, that's the whole meaning of life. Oh, you guys. But I definitely am glad that you guys joined me tonight, that I was able to parse through this with you and share these thoughts with you, and just the way that I presented them as one, like, through line through all these videos that I've been watching the past week, actually. And then I started collecting them, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do, a live where I could go through all of this and see what you guys think. So, as always, thank you so much for your support. And I will put a link to my, because I'll post a replay, and I'll put the link to my YouTube. I will post my latest YouTube video. And if you guys want to, take a look and watch that and subscribe, of course. Like I said, it's going slow, uh but it's definitely a platform. I like that platform way better than TikTok. I think I'm going to be phasing out TikTok, but thank you all again so much for joining me. And like I said, stay tuned. I will send invites to the next live, which will probably be on Wednesday. It'll be me and Natasha. And then after that, there might be a couple of other guests, which I'm super excited about. And just keep an eye out for those invites as well. So I hope that you guys have a wonderful evening, and then you have a really good week. All right. I'll talk to you soon.